Gilberto Manzano, excuse me, man. I just almost coughed up the coffee I just drank. That's how much you choked me up, man. No, but he's a writer of Sports Illustrated, of course, MMQB as well. And you should check out his show, Compass on the Beat, as well. So you can get that where you get your podcast, but you can also check it out on YouTube and watch it. Gilberto, you're always active too, man. You're a TikTok fanatic. You're doing really well on there, man. I appreciate it.
I try, Scott, and thanks for having me on, Ryan and Scott. And I think, Scott, you got a little, choked up after you saw the O in my last name, or my first name is, Gilbert with the no, Gilberto, and
Yeah,
it's like, yeah,
Gilberto.
yeah, a lot of people
Come on.
try to do the roll the
The,
R, and then the O comes in, it's like, ah, crap,
oh
I
yeah,
can't do this, but I
I
appreciate the
know.
effort. And yeah, I try to be on TikTok, YouTube, whatever you use it nowadays, Twitch, things like that. I try
Oh
to keep
yeah.
up. I try to keep up.
It's good, and you do great content. And of course, I had you obviously on our Raiders show before, and Ryan knows you from running around Los Angeles and
Yeah.
all that kind of stuff. So we all have great connections here. But we wanted to talk about the NFL playoffs, and we say, hey, we got to get this on. But Ryan and I were talking a little bit before you came on about the coaching carousel, and we want to start in LA where you're at, which is the Jim Harbaugh rumors with Los Angeles. Looks like, at least from all the reports we're getting, it's looking very positively like Jim Harbaugh could end up there. What are you hearing, and what's your kind of I guess recollection of what's going on down there and what's happening, and if you think it's going to happen?
Yeah, it seems like everybody was already penciling in the Chargers to get Jim Harbaugh, and then I don't know where the Atlanta Falcons are doing the interview with Jim Harbaugh. I guess a day after they did, or a couple of days after Bill Belichick. So they're trying to swing big over there, and I know a lot of Chargers fans are getting a little worried about it because it seems like it's Jim Harbaugh or bust, and it's not Jim Harbaugh. They're going to lose it, and I hate when people say, Chargers don't have any fans, or they don't have a big fan base. Well, yes, they do. I covered that team for about four years, and they put a lot of pressure on the Spanos family. So I wonder what happens there. And it's a little tricky, Scott and Ryan, because obviously you need to go through the Rooney Rule. You need to have these interviews, on Zoom and then in person. You got to interview 2 or 3 different people. And for me, I'm all about diversity and making sure everybody gets a fair shake and gets a fair opportunity. But it's tricky when you already know who you want to get, and it feels like the Chargers want to get Jim Harbaugh. But you know what? If the Chargers are doing a legit kind of coaching search, this is a year to really do it. Like, you have Mike Vrabel's out there. Maybe Pete Carroll wants to come back. And, like, he got forced into the front office, and maybe you want to talk to Nick Saban. I don't know. I'm just trying to stir the pot there, but there's a lot of big names. Bill Belichick. Like, are we just going to assume that Bill Belichick has no interest in Justin Herbert, and we're all going to assume Bill Belichick is going to the Falcons or the Cowboys? But hey, this is a year to really kind of get some intel on other teams. This is a year to get to know some candidates. This is a year to get to know people who could be coordinators on your staff, defensive line coach, position coach, whatever it is. Just make sure it's a legit, kind of search. And then, hey, after that, when you have a clear mind, you figure it out. You know what? That OC there from Miami, Frank Smith, could be something. Ben Johnson, Detroit, could be something. Dave Canales from Tampa Bay could be something. But you know what? You want Jim Harbaugh. He has the experience. He's won everywhere he's gone. He has history and ties to the franchise. He played the last 2 years with the Chargers. He coached at University of San Diego. So after that, and you feel like, you know what? I could go to sleep at night and figure out I did this right. Give me Jim Harbaugh. That's okay. But it is kind of a little silly process. And I just spent this long answer, trying to figure out a way how the Chargers are going to approach it. But if it's Jim Harbaugh, I wouldn't knock it at all.
I love it. I love it. Well, first of all, man, great to see you. I feel like it's been forever. So,
yeah,
good seeing you, and excited to hear, maybe even after this, hear how things have been going with you. But keeping it with the Chargers, and then I know Scott and I will get more national now that you cover full national. Congrats on that, by the way, and doing great work over at Sports Illustrated. But you kind of answered a little bit in your great answer, but to get a little more maybe dialed in, who are the coaches that you like the best, not named John Harbaugh? So if it does happen where he doesn't either come here, either stays at Michigan or goes to Atlanta, which is the only place he's interviewed thus far, but who are some of the guys that you like? And then on top of that, I don't know how much you've looked into. I know you follow it closely, but when you look at this open GM job as well, which I think is a very sought after job, and obviously if it's Jim Harbaugh, I think the negotiation is that he'll have his pick. But if it's not, who are some GM candidates that you really like to take this spot as well?
Yeah, the tricky part with the GM is, like, if you go big name hunting, like, you got to make sure the coach and the GM are aligned. Like especially when these coaches who command a lot of money and a lot of decision or power, I should say, they want to have the final say. So you better have a GM that you're aligned with, like you have a good chemistry with. Like we saw what happened in Tennessee. The rumors that came out that Mike Vrabel and Rand Carthon were not on the same page, and it kind of led to somebody, being squeezed out and became Mike Vrabel. So, for me, the GM spot's a little tricky, but we've seen people who are connected to Jim Harbaugh. Brown from the Giants came in and had an interview there, and he's a young guy. I think I saw like 36 years old, something like that. But there's a lot of connections there. Ian Cunningham too, as well, just interviewed, and the Chargers are doing a good job too of interviewing a lot of people. But if it's not Jim Harbaugh, good luck trying to tell that to the fan base. But it is a good year, like I mentioned, to kind of just try, and explore and see what's out there. And I think the biggest thing, the Chargers are obviously very sensitive when it comes to the whole notion that they're cheap. They don't like to pay for coaches or pay for free agents. But, that's not really the case, at least when it comes to free agents. I've covered the team. Maybe coaches are, they've kind of tried the first-time head coach, the newcomer. I think they're sincere when it comes to saying, you know what, we want somebody with experience. Somebody has done it before, and that costs more money. Maybe it not might be Jim Harbaugh money, but how about you go get a Raheem Morris? And I get the Raheem Morris connection with Brandon Staley being the DC of the Rams might linger in people's mind. I think that's kind of dumb. Raheem Morris would be a great addition. How about you bring back somebody familiar with the franchise, Frank Smith, the OC, who with the Miami Dolphins had a great connection with Rashawn Slater and the offensive line. And, Scott, you probably know Frank Smith from his days with the Raiders and John Gruden. Yep. He started with Sean Payton, so he has a lot of, experience. And, for me, I've been keeping an eye on Dave Canales, what he did with Baker Mayfield and that offense, and Mike Evans. So obviously you want to have somebody kind of like an offensive background for Justin Herbert, but you want somebody with experience too. I feel like Dan Quinn is another one too, but he might be going to Seattle too. So somebody with experience and a kind of a good eye for offense, could check a lot of boxes with Justin Herbert.
Well, that's what's interesting about these big names being on the market, right? Because you're talking about Ben Johnson, Smith. Those guys are usually the candidates. And of course, Raheem Morris, who's well known around the league, and in my view, is one of the most deserving guys of a head coaching job at this point with what he's done. So you look at those guys and you think, man, even though the Chargers brought them through, even though some of these other teams have interviewed them, they're not doing it. And then you look at the situation in Las Vegas, right? And even though Antonio Pierce did a great job of taking over in a tough situation, they haven't really even talked to a serious candidate other than Antonio Pierce, with all due respect to the other two folks that interviewed through there, but they're not really serious candidates, right? They're not bigger names. They're not some of the up and coming coordinators. Talk a little bit about that with a Belichick, a Carroll, and a Vrabel out there. Yes, there's 8 openings, so some of these young guys are going to get a shot, but I think that changed the whole dynamic.
Yeah, it is a little quiet with the Raiders, and obviously, if you're Mark Davis, you want to also have like a legit kind of coaching search, and when you have so many big names out there, you got to maybe call Mike Vrabel, and it's starting to get to a point where one of these big names might not even get a job. So if that's the case, that means you like who you have, and that's Antonio Pierce, and I really like what Antonio Pierce did for the Raiders. And I know Mark Davis is probably still kind of, wondering what could have been with Rich Bisaccia, with the interim head coach, and took the Raiders to the playoffs, and it didn't work out. And he's a great special teams coordinator. He's helped out the Packers as well. But AP is a guy who really, the one knock for being a player's coach is like you care too much about what your players say. But they're out there being disciplined. They're not even getting flagged anymore, Scott. That's big for the Raiders. And they're running the football. When Josh Jacobs went down and Zamir White came in, that tells me you know how to run the football with anybody can plug back there because you have a good scheme. You know how to get your offensive line together to run block and open it up. So obviously the biggest issue with the Raiders is finding a quarterback. But when AP came in and he fixed the running game, and then I get Patrick Graham was doing a great job with the defense. But when he took over, that defense got better too. So AP is doing a little bit of everything. So they're disciplined, they're having fun. He has support from his players, but it's like, hey, we got rules here. I know you're Max Crosby or Devontae Adams or Josh Jacobs, but you're still gonna command and give me respect here. So you're doing it the Raider way too, and it felt like with Josh McDaniels, the Patriot way was like a copy. It was forced. You're trying to do something different. And then when they fired Josh McDaniels, I kept saying, all right, Mark Davis, don't try to copy something else. Don't even try to copy what your dad did, the old Raider way. And somehow he stumbled it on Antonio Pierce. It's authentic. It's real. He's being true to himself, and people like that. So I think it should be AP all the way.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I don't see any other thing happening in Las Vegas there. All right, Bill Belichick. Gilberto, talk about Bill Belichick, because before you got on, I was telling Ryan, I really believe that even though the dynamics would be interesting, that he ends up in Dallas. I know Arthur Blank will throw a bunch of money at him, but when you look at the situation he's in, he's 15 wins away, right, from becoming the all-time. So he's got to coach a couple years, unless he has one great, amazing year. But let's figure on at least 2 or 3 years of coaching if that's what he's going to do. The team that I look at, despite the disappointments in the playoffs, the team that's closest for him to come in and be able to work with that has a quarterback is the Cowboys.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense there. And after, the Cowboys were down, I don't know, I forget, 30 points, 20 points. I was like, just go hire Bill Belichick right now. Just go do it. Like, get it over with. And, part of me though, I think I'm starting to believe some of this smoke that's coming out of Atlanta. Like, you've been in Boston for the last 24 years. You had a lot of spotlight with Tom Brady. Maybe you go to the Falcons, a little more laid back, a little more chill. Get to hang out with Bijan Robinson and Drake London and Kyle Pitts. Go find a quarterback. It's easier said than done. That could be a big problem right there. But if you want to be in the spotlight, if you want to just win Super Bowls and then go out and retire in 3 years, it's the Dallas Cowboys. You got to go do that. It's going to be more money. Jerry Jones has a lot of money. But you want something kind of chill before you retire. You want to build something new. You want to get credit for building that and finding a quarterback and saying, hey, look, you know what? I got crushed in New England for these final years, saying it was my fault. I'm an old timer. I don't know how to build a defense. I don't know how to, groom players. I don't know how to have a good offense. So maybe Atlanta could be the way to do that, to kind of, quiet that noise about the last 4 years in New England. But if you want to win right away and you want to be remembered for a long time, and then I know Bill Belichick is good friends with Jimmy Johnson. He's in the Ring of Honor already. All that bad blood is gone. So maybe it's a good time for Bill Belichick to come in and hang around with the legends in Dallas. So I think it should be Bill Belichick, because that's what they need. Mike McCarthy did a good job of making that offense better from Kellen Moore, getting them to 12-5 3 years in a row. That's not easy. He let Dan Quinn do his job, but when you keep flopping in the postseason, you maxed out. That's all you could do right now, I feel like. Yeah. So go get Bill Belichick to get you to those couple steps higher.
Yeah, it's a great point. I was saying right before you jumped on, Gilbert, that as far as fits, it makes tons of sense, and especially going into somewhere that's already winning. I would just be curious the dynamic, because I just don't know if he's going to want to take orders from Jerry Jones, who I think is clearly the main guy. And it seemed like in New England, he always had overall say, and when things got bad, Kraft kind of came in more, and that's where the friction came. So maybe he'd have more power in Atlanta or a Tennessee. So, but last coaching question, and then let's get to some of these games before we wrap up. And this can even be quick. I'm just curious. We talked about the Raiders, talked about the Chargers. We just mentioned the Cowboys. In your opinion, of all the openings right now, what is the best opening for any coach out there right now?
It's tough to say, because the only team that has a very good quarterback is the Chargers. You want Justin Herbert, and that really helps you out. And Ryan, I kept looking, okay, these teams that were quick fixes, like the Rams and the Packers, what was the one common thing they had? They had a quarterback. They had Matthew Stafford and Jordan Love. I know people didn't know Jordan Love, but to learn for 3 years behind Aaron Rodgers, to get to work with Matt LaFleur, he was ready to go. He was a first-round pick. So they had the quarterback there. So when you have Justin Herbert, it could lead to quick, early, successful seasons. But to me, I'm going to go with Seattle. I know they might be sold in a couple of years. That could kind of add a little wrinkle to it. But they have a great facility. They play in a great city in Seattle. You got DK Metcalf, Jackson Smith and Jigba. You got a loaded defense. The defense that could change too. I think a lot of veterans on that side, but the defense is pretty good. They've done some good job with John Schneider. They're the GM to draft. So for me, if you can make it work with Geno Smith, maybe that's fine. He's not the worst quarterback, but you could upgrade the quarterback position, and then the rest of that roster there, the one that really disappointed in 2023, you can make that a quick fix too. So I really like the Charger job because of Justin Herbert, but in terms of everything else, you want a little bit like to check boxes, it might be Seattle for me.
Yeah, I mean, hell, let me tell you something, Gilbert. I appreciate that, because I actually loved the Seahawks going into the season. And you're right, they underachieved, but that roster is full, and they got draft capital, right? So they can go out, you get a new coach in, you want to go get a quarterback. Okay, you're not going to be at the top of the first round. I get that, but there's other quarterbacks there you can develop, and there's other options too. So great take on that. All right, let's jump into the games this weekend. We got to start with the big one, and that, of course, is Kansas City going into Buffalo. You look at this game, Buffalo's going to get dumped on again with more snow, of course. But Patrick Mahomes, first time in 15 playoff games, not counting neutral sites for the Super Bowl, Mahomes has to go on the road against what is the hottest team in the NFL and the Buffalo Bills. Talk about how you see that game coming out and what's going to be the key for each one of those teams to try to win and advance to the AFC Championship game.
Yeah, I feel like the Dolphins victory, a lot of people don't want to give them credit for that one. And they did their job. They handled the Dolphins. They dominated, and I get they were depleted on defense, and the Chiefs were at home. But to see what Rashee Rice did as a number one wide receiver, to see Isaiah Pacheco still moving the chains there. At first, Rashee Rice is kind of like, hey, be a safety net for Patrick Mahomes. We don't want you to be the number one guy. Then it became, oh, crap, Rashee Rice. We don't have anybody else. Kadarius Toney ain't doing anything. Sky Moore is hurt. You know what? Do you want to be the number one wide receiver? And they really made him a focal point against the Miami Dolphins. And I was very impressed with Rashee Rice there. And Travis Kelce is a little older, but he still did his job with 71 yards there. So that's what I focus on is Patrick Mahomes against a very banged up Bills defense. They lost two more guys, I felt like. I think that starter caliber, or even three guys in that Pittsburgh game too. So you keep losing guys defensively. So I'm going to bet on Patrick Mahomes, even with a sluggish offense, to go into Buffalo in a very banged up, defense. But the matchups that I'm really intrigued about, I'm sure you guys are too, Ryan and Scott, is like best on best. Josh Allen is offense against Chris Jones and that Chiefs defense, L'Jarius Sneed, Trek McDuffie, all these weapons on both sides, defense and offense. So I like what Josh Allen did to incorporate Dalton Kincaid and Dawson Knox. So if Sneed and McDuffie are covering, Diggs and Khalil Shakur, you got two tight ends. You got James Cook, who's helping you out in the passing game as well, too. Joe Brady has done a great job. But that Chiefs defense, they really shut down the Dolphins. I know the Dolphins offense has been quiet since 70-20 game in September. But the way they did it, they reminded me of the Chiefs' dominant defense from the first 2 months of the season. They kind of regressed in the back half of the season. But when you got Chris Jones, Nick Bolton, those cornerbacks, like I mentioned, Justin Reed, they're very talented defensively, and it could really hamper Josh Allen.
Yeah, what Brett Veach has done there with his defenses, it reminds me. I know John Elway gets a lot of flack as a GM, but people forget that the 2012, 2013 Broncos were obviously very offensively dynamic, one of the greatest seasons ever with Peyton Manning in 13, and then they flopped and became a defensive juggernaut in 15 and won the Super Bowl that year. And it feels very similar in a sense to the Chiefs. So I guess we'll work last game backwards. So go to the next game. Before that, you look at the Buccaneers and Lions, and oh man, I love the storylines on this. Two former number one overall picks, Jared Goff, Baker Mayfield. I'll ask you this question, so it's not just a generic preview matchup question. Who of these quarterbacks has more to gain by winning this game? I know when you moved to the Rams beat here in LA, Goff was already gone, but obviously Jared Goff's name gets mentioned a lot here in Los Angeles, and Baker Mayfield play here in LA too. But he's bounced around, and now what he's done in Tampa. So, and being in the shadow of Tom Brady. So in your opinion, who has more to gain out of these two QBs to come out on top and head to the NFC Championship?
Yeah, that's a tough one and a good question. Both number one overall picks there, and they both have a playoff win now with their respective franchises. So it kind of feels like they already did enough to stick around for another year.
Yeah.
But Baker Mayfield might be the one because he only has a 1 year contract, a prove it deal, and he's done some wonderful things in that 1 year. But what if you lose your OC Dave Canales? And as people are saying, hey, well, it was Dave. I like to call him Dave Channels, like Canales Channels in Spanish. But Dave Channels did all the work there. Maybe you're not the guy, Baker, and he leaves, and maybe he doesn't get a contract there. So you could really quiet people if you go in Detroit and you win that game. You have two playoff victories on your resume. But same thing with Jared Goff. Like I don't think he has any more guaranteed money on his contract. There might be some void years on the contract, and you want to make yourself more money, win another playoff game, and he beat a very good Rams team that's going to really kind of linger in people's mind, like Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell, people who had to make the decisions in Detroit. But if you go to the NFC title game, you win those two games, I could definitely, I'm not giving you a straight up answer, Ryan, but I could definitely feel like, these guys have both done enough to stick around for another year. But if you really, really want to earn that paycheck, get some more guaranteed money, make sure you're safe when it becomes March and the new calendar year in the NFL. Go win a playoff game for the second time, and definitely you would not be caught off guard when it comes to the offseason.
Yeah. Aside from, sorry, Scott, real quick.
That's okay. Go.
aside from money, Goff might just get a statue in Detroit if he does that.
Yeah.
So he's looking at a statue if he can win this game and keep going. Go ahead, Scott.
Yeah, what a great story. And that, as you guys mentioned, the story with Baker Mayfield too, just both those teams. I'm actually picking Tampa Bay in an upset. But anyway, let's move on. Yeah, let's move on. You talk about getting that security, winning games in the playoffs as a player, which brings us to who's going to be the MVP, which of course, Lamar Jackson, barring some weird circumstance. But we all know what the story is there too, right? If there's anything that people talk about, he answered a lot, I think, this year with his play, able to throw the ball better downfield, limiting as much. I mean, he ran, of course, because he's a great athlete. But you look at that situation in Baltimore with Lamar Jackson, getting Houston, obviously, young team, is amazing story as well with CJ Stroud, DeMeco Ryans. They got to go to Baltimore now. Does Lamar have to win these games? Does he have to get far in the playoffs to kind of get that situation kind of off the narrative?
Yeah, when we're talking about Jared Goff and Baker Mayfield, like, they're looking for a long-term home. They're looking for more money. Obviously, they're millionaires, but you want more money at the end of the day. Lamar Jackson has his money. He has his home. He's locked in with Baltimore. But when it comes to pressure and narratives and people saying you're not a true quarterback, you're like a combination of a running back and who happens to be a good passer. Like, a lot of people just discredit Lamar Jackson, and I have not been one of those people. I think before this year, I'm like, he's a great passer, one of the best passers in the NFL, a great downfield passer. Obviously, he doesn't like to he doesn't when the pocket collapses, he doesn't like to run first. He likes to extend plays and then push the ball down the field. But this time with Todd Monken, the OC, I wanted to see kind of like, okay, how much are you well-rounded as a passer? Are you, on the level of Patrick Mahomes and we think about, Justin Herbert, Josh Allen when he gets on fire, or even like a CJ Stroud, like these, or Joe Burrow, obviously. But like when it comes to being a pocket assassin, how good is Lamar Jackson? And maybe he's not a guy who's going to stand in the pocket, but when I see this guy going to the right, going to the left, and it's been 4 or 5 seconds, you can't bring the guy down, and his eyes are still down the field. That is when Lamar Jackson is very dangerous. When you see Isaiah Likely going up for like a jump ball, you see Zay Flowers on the field, you see OBJ. Like, Lamar Jackson already had my respect as a passer, but what he did with Tom Monken, really to me was, okay, he's a top 5 passer in this game. I don't care that he has some good rushing yards as well. He is a nightmare to matchup wise. He's a nightmare to be on the field. I still remember that Jaguars game where the defender's on the ground with his hands in his face. Like, how the heck did he do that? How do you throw that pass? But if he doesn't win this game, and there's a number 1 seed, you've had 2 weeks off, you're fresh, your team's been crushing people, you have probably the best defense in the NFL, you have good coaching, even the coordinators are great, Todd Monken, Mike McDonald. It's all set up for you to beat this young, pesky CJ Stroud-led team with DeMeco Ryans, first-year head coach. Like, if you don't do it, and it's maybe unfair, but the criticism for Lamar Jackson, people will not be quiet. We all know, I guess now on X or TikTok, like what we brought up earlier, they're gonna crush Lamar Jackson. And I think it's unfair. Like, if Josh Allen loses his game, like, oh, he's great. I love his intangibles and his skill set. He's a rocket arm, top 5 quarterback. If Lamar loses his game, he does not get the same treatment. I feel like
he gets all the blame.
He gets all the blame. But I get it. He's getting paid $50
Sure.
million per year. You better win
Sure.
a playoff game, and that's his knock. But in terms of his game, I think he has it, but it is a lot of pressure.
Yeah, it's definitely unfair. I mean, but to what we kind of have been talking about offline too, is like, this is the first playoff year that I can remember where he's had this many resources on offense in terms of skill players, in terms of the play calling. Because, going from Greg Roman and Ton Mock, and I think it's a fairly different offenses, and he's adjusted so well and played so well. So I hope for his sake he is. It's going to be a great game, and can't wait to see that matchup. But Scott, you threw me off. You skipped this game and went to the first one, so I guess we'll end with the Niners-Packers game.
Gilbert, I got to keep him on his toes, man.
Yeah,
you guys living in the sunny weather, he gets a little, his mind wanders. So I got to keep him on task.
It's cloudy today. We're dealing with
it's
clouds
tough
out here.
Scott. I don't know what you're talking about. When it gets to 60 degrees, I'm struggling.
That's cold, man.
Like 59 and cloudy. Like, I'm bringing out the heavy jacket. But so look at this last game, Gilbert. 1 versus 7. Would have been seen as a terrible matchup, and all of a sudden the Packers and Jordan Love, one of the hottest quarterbacks right now. It's kind of funny. It almost feels like Jordan Love, I know he's not a rookie, but he feels like Brock Purdy last year. Like, Purdy won all those games, going into the playoff, was the talk of the town. And that's kind of Jordan Love. Is really just came out of nowhere. And there was even reports early in the season that Gunthurst wasn't ready to commit to him as his full-time franchise QB. And I think that's probably changed now, and he looks good. You have the connection of Kyle Shanahan and Matt LaFleur. Obviously, they have history. So I'll ask you this. What are you most looking forward to in a 1-7 game that usually would be seen as a blowout, but now is really intriguing?
Yeah, and I'll go off of what you said about the GM with the Packers. It felt like when they agreed to that, it's kind of like a mini contract extension when you got another year, or I guess they guaranteed his 5th-year option. And it might be another year on top of it, but it kind of felt like, why do you lock yourself in for such a short-term deal when you could have a monster year in your first year as a starting quarterback and then really break the bank? But it kind of felt like Jordan Love wanted to secure some money just in case it does not work out. It's kind of a weird territory, like you're going through something new. Maybe you are a good quarterback, but your surroundings don't help you out. Maybe you don't know how Matt LaFleur is without Aaron Rodgers, and he locked himself into a contract. It kind of felt like, I don't know if that's the right move. And they lose 4 games in a row, and they can't do anything. He's throwing killer interceptions. They're banged up on the offensive line. Matt LaFleur can't score points or generate points for his offense, or just open up the playbook for Jordan Love. And then they just really took off. And
against the Chargers.
Yeah, that was. It might have happened with the Rams first with that Brett Rippon game.
Yeah.
They won to kill the streak, and then he had his confidence. And then, you know what? I could throw against that Chargers defense, and he never looked back ever since. So Jordan Love has been fantastic. They could definitely make noise here, with Dontavius Wicks, Jaden Reed, so many young pass catchers that I want to see them, push the 49ers, but the 49ers are just on a different level. They have, all the pass catchers we name with the Packers, they have better ones. They have, Brandon Ayuk and Deebo Samuel, George Kittle, Christian McCaffrey, Trent Williams. So, I expect, the 49ers to handle the Packers, but it won't be easy, and it should be a pretty fun game.
Yeah, it'll be interesting that same thing too with Shanahan, right? In San Francisco is sort of winning deeper into the playoffs and getting past that. Of course, when you run out of quarterbacks like you did last year, it makes it a little difficult, but it's going to be an exciting playoff run. Gilbert, as always, man, we appreciate you being with us. Make sure you follow him up on x.com at gmanzano24. And you can find links there to his TikTok and everything like that. Also check out Compass on the Beat.
Yeah.
Great show. You guys have a good time on that one as well. Man, thanks so much for spending so much time with us today, and enjoy the playoffs, and we'll catch up with you down the line.
Yeah, thank you. Good timing, because my laptop's about to die. I did not charge it, so I was afraid I was going to just disappear, but it would have been perfect timing. But you know what? I'll head out on that note. Thank you, Ryan and Scott. It was a good time.
Thanks, Gil. I appreciate it. Take care of yourself. There you go.